Hey guys, it's time for another edition of the Uncut, Unedited Devotions with Pastor Troy, and this time we're in the airport in Lubbock, Texas. This is pretty a desolate place, but I didn't want to not get the video to you, so this week we'll be looking at 1 Corinthians, and as you know, it is probably the most divided church in all of the Bible. Divisions were existing everywhere. And my fear is that we're living in a day in our country where we are also moving into one of the most divided churches that I've ever been a part of. The church for centuries has always been able to sustain the pressure from the outside or the persecution from the outside. In fact, God has used those things literally to advance the church. But the church is destroyed most often by the factions and the divisions that come up from within. And that is why Jesus prayed for our unity. And we get to 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and Paul is writing some pretty tough stuff. He said, who will not inherit the kingdom of heaven? And he actually gives lists. We like to get into lists, and we see this list. The sexual immoral, or the idolaters, or the adulterers, or the homosexuals, or the thieves. But then look at the sixth thing on the list. Greedy people. Greedy people. People who have but want more. People who are not content with what they have, but actually they're motivated by the more. What is Paul saying? Is he saying that these are the worst sins, the verbally abusive, the drunkard, the swindler? Or is Paul saying that no, all of us are sinners, and it doesn't matter what sins we've struggled with, we're all guilty of not being able to inherit the kingdom of God on our own. And what he says is, such were some of you. Here's my question for today, or at least the first question for today. How has the gospel changed you? How has the gospel changed me? Since I put my faith in Jesus, what would people say is fundamentally different about me? Have I transitioned from what I once was to now something that I am that is mostly identified by the reality of the gospel in my life? By the time we get to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I love what Paul said. Would this be true of you guys? Would it be true of me? Paul writes this, chapter 9, verse 23. I do everything for the sake of the gospel. Everything. He said, to the Jew, I became a Jew so that I could win Jews. To the Gentile, I became a Gentile so that I could win Gentiles. Was Paul a hypocrite? Was he one thing in one context and another thing in another context? Sometimes he said he drank, and sometimes he said he didn't drink. Sometimes he said he ate meat. Sometimes he said he didn't eat meat. Well, what is it, Paul? Are you a drinker or a non-drinker? Are you an eater or are you a non-eater? Are you a Jew or are you a Gentile? You're a hypocrite. That's what you are. And he said, no, I'm not. Because I am committed to the advancement of the gospel. Whatever that means. I become all things to all men. I drink all things, or eat all things, or I don't drink anything, or I don't eat anything. Why? Because I'm committed to the gospel, because the gospel has fundamentally changed my life. What about me? What about you? What do you do all things for the sake of? Is it the gospel? Shouldn't it be the transforming work of Christ in me? And shouldn't I want to see that same work taking place in others? And shouldn't I be willing to give anything, do anything, go anywhere, be anybody? So that someone could come to know Jesus? How long has it been since someone has placed their faith in Jesus because of me? How long has it been since someone has placed their faith in Jesus because of you, because of your diligent effort that they would embrace the gospel of Jesus Christ? And then verse 27 of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, here's what he said. I discipline my body and I bring it under strict control, so that after preaching to others, I myself will not be disqualified. Paul understood that if we are going to be gospel advancers, that it's not going to just come haphazardly. Anything you really want, it goes against your nature. You're going to have to discipline yourself. Paul told Timothy, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. And here he's saying, I discipline my body and I make it my slave. I put it under strict control. Why? So that others will be saved. So that my life would represent well the gospel message of Jesus. And then you get to chapter 10, verse 24. He said this, all of us should seek the good of others more than our own good. How many of us just live for ourselves? I know me, the pressure that I'm under all the time is what can I do for me? And yet a gospel motivation is what should I do for others? Who can I become so that others would get saved? And then I love this verse. 1 Corinthians 10:31, it says this. Whether you eat or whether you drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. That's a pretty high bar. But something definitely worth reaching for. So guys, there's your devotion from the week. And I'm filming myself, so I thought you probably would want to see the beautiful countryside of West Texas. Yep, that's it. That's all there is to it. Yep, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I don't know why anybody would want to live here, but they do. And there are some people here that are trying to advance the gospel. God bless them. I'll see you back in Iowa. Peace out.